In this video I respond to comments from my video John the Other and Diana Davison vs Paul Elam and Janet Bloomfield. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I'll link in the description. I want to apologize in advance for getting a little sloppy. I think back to that one Barbarossa video, I can just hear Barbarossa's voice saying don't half-ass it, and that normally helps to keep me sharp and focused on detail, but I am very short on time these days and want to get this out there. I did a sloppy job of doing voice changes. I even screwed up and used one voice for a guy, and then switched to a different voice to represent him. Oh well, this video is a little sloppy, but had I carefully took the time to polish it up, it would have taken so many hours that this video wouldn't be out for another day.
So, the MRM is for, or against, big government.
The size of government in men's rights has about as much importance as the size of my dick. Yes, there is a legal bias towards men. You enter into a fallacy when you proclaim that legal inequalities come from a big government. Blacks had plenty of inequality in a time when America's government was at its smallest. Small doesn't directly translate to free or equal. We cannot get distracted by the nonsense of how big should the government be, or what mode of government we should have. That's irrelevant. We must focus on ending the inequalities to men. We must fight misandry. We must teach men not to welcome his disposability with open arms and defend that role with pride. We must awaken people to the reality of gynocentrism. For the most part, the war we fight is a cultural one. We must open people's eyes. We must change people's hearts and attitudes. We must teach men to have the courage to stand up and say being born with a penis does not make me a woman's punching bag. You claim that tradcons are small government, well so is practically every damn MGTOW. My audience is practically all MGTOW, and damn near all of them are libertarians and anarchists. What I find really interesting, and forgive me for my accusatory tone, downright suspicious here is, I have mentioned in this video exactly what my problem with the tradcons are, and the size of government and where they may or may not stand, wasn't on that list.
Up yours. Paul Elam annihilated John the Other. Fuck JTO.
If I ever got into a boxing match with a professional heavyweight, I want you as the referee.
A question: can you have a non-gynocentric marriage? Ignore children. Not all marriages have children. Ignore divorce. Not all marriages end in divorce. Forget the loaded gun, for that is given from without and can be a game of Russian roulette, with the woman's gun only having one bullet to the man's three. Between two people of opposite sex, can they create their lives together without it being gynocentric or patriarchal? If so, then what matters the document, because just living together will expose you to legal obligations.
I strongly recommend, if a man is going to be in a relationship, that they live apart.
Recommendations aside, then you would say that people who cohabitate can't be MGTOW? This isn't about recommendations. It's well understood that marriage isn't recommended in the current legal climate.
People who are cohabitating can be MGTOW.
How does that work, that when in a cohabitation relationship, you are treated as virtually married by the government? The government in Australia makes little distinction between married and cohabitation. De facto, while a divorce isn't required, all the penalties will apply. You still have the gun pointed at your head in cohabitation.
I think it really comes down to, where do we draw the line? Entering into a relationship serves a purpose in people's lives. Moving in together can often be the economically sound thing to do depending on the circumstances. Marriage is a piece of paper, a ring, and openly inviting government into your personal life. That one place government seriously doesn't need to be. Marriage is without any real and genuine purpose. It is nothing more than a ritual. Marriage is just a symbolic gesture. You could argue and make a case that this is almost as bad as that, or this and that are nearly identical. And I will tell you that sometimes, when a line is needed to be drawn, it can be drawn with nothing more than a symbolic statement such as I, a man, reject the institution of marriage, and all the gynocentrism it entails and symbolizes. Sometimes it's just the symbolic gesture that makes the declaration. Marriage itself is nothing more than a symbolic gesture. Rejection of marriage is a symbolic gesture. The gesture of marriage is saying I loud and clear, agree to have the government govern my personal life. Bounding me to this woman who has power over me, I wholeheartedly, loud and clear, in front of all witnesses, relinquish my autonomy to this woman, now and forever. That is the symbolic gesture of marriage. A MGTOW, by virtue of denouncing marriage, is making the symbolic gesture of I loud and clear declare self-ownership and autonomy, and reject the gynocentric expectations placed upon me. No matter who the government may or may not choose to bond me to in its law, it does so without my consent. Even those who are bound by law for their continued cohabitation in some countries, just by refusing to go through with the ceremony, are putting their middle finger in the air to the tradcons and their religion and enforcement of gynocentrism. He is saying you may throw me under the bus, but know that I will not throw myself under the bus. We have to draw the line somewhere. Where do we draw it? At the symbolic induction into gynocentric bondage, we draw the line at marriage.
Oh great. Just what we need. A population that's even more atomized and disinclined to breed than that which we already have. I suppose in 50 years when the last non-parasitical person dies off and the great government machine that keeps single mothers and their enormous bastard broods nourished finally grinds to a halt resulting in a massive die-off, then you'll be happy. I understand, marriage is a loser's game and I wouldn't encourage anyone to enter into a marriage contract with rules as insane as those that currently exist, but exploding the human race in a nuclear bomb of hedonistic nihilism is not the answer. Better to force reform onto the marriage institution and make it fair for both sides than gut the institutions that have kept the human race humming along from the dawn of history until now. Oh great. Just what we need. A population that's even more atomized and disinclined to breed than that which we already have.
Because God knows 7 billion people bursting Earth's seams destroying the atmosphere and devouring all the resources means we're so low on people that if we don't double our output we'll be extinct in 50 years, end sarcasm.
I suppose in 50 years when the last non-parasitical person dies off.
We have an overbloated population of 7 billion and if we don't knock this MGTOW shit off right now, all of humanity will be extinct in 50 years, premature panic much?
And the great government machine that keeps single mothers and their enormous bastard broods nourished finally grinds to a halt resulting in a massive die-off, then you'll be happy.
Yes. Big fat socialist government grinding to a halt would be a good thing. Oh come the fuck on you anarchists. Prop me for saying that. I'm giving you guys this one. Don't say RBK never did you any favors. I'm not sure what part to quote next, but to the rest of what you said, the concept that marriage is needed to sustain human population, is false. It is also false that marriage kept the human race humming along from the dawn of history until now. Marriage is a ring, a ritual and a government contract. Life without those three things will not bring about extinction. 7 billion people are not about to perish in the next 50 years. Again, panic much?
The cornerstone of MGTOW is independence of thought. Groupthink has set in, and so what we have now is a kind of automated MGTOW whereby the only criteria used to judge one's MGTOWness is their marital status. This is a new development, but under the old rules of MGTOW, guys like Vox Day, who is married, would be considered a MGTOW, for the sole reason that he is his own man and does his own thing. Apparently, from what I am hearing lately, Vox would be disqualified, under the old rules. In fact, you didn't even have to self-define as a MGTOW, you just had to be contrary and independent. As long as you veered off the road most people take and had some intellectual gravity as to why no matter your marital status you were a MGTOW. The current incarnation of MGTOW won't last because being unmarried isn't enough. You can't be the village idiot and not be married. There are now a zillion MGTOWs on YouTube who are fucking morons and claiming to be MGTOW simply because they were not married. My point is one must have cultivated a train of thought which is genuinely independent and contrary to the norm. That is the true test of a MGTOW.
You can be the village idiot and not be married. There are now a zillion MGTOWs on YouTube who are fucking morons.
Yes, and you can be an idiot and still be MGTOW. Are you attempting to assert that MGTOW is some sort of group of intellectual elites, that intelligence, a subjective term, is the sole component of MGTOW? I think you seem to be saying that. Can't idiots go their own way? Do people have to take an IQ test before they pass as MGTOW? Isn't that establishing a litmus test? The thing your buddy Paul Elam says he is against?
My point is one must have cultivated a train of thought which is genuinely independent and contrary to the norm. That is the true test of a MGTOW.
I more or less agree with that. Like, it means to walk away from the expected role, the game, in a world where the most gynocentric thing a man can do is enter into a marriage contract, a thing that is expected of him, his duty to his sex, his race, his nation, his species, his culture, his duty, conforming to this ultimate display of gynocentrism and self-destruction to conform to your social obligation, is hardly going your own way. Conforming to the norm, is hardly contrary to the norm.
The cornerstone of MGTOW is independence of thought. Groupthink has set in, and so what we have now is a kind of automated MGTOW whereby
so men walking away from the traditional expected norm, is being groupthink. But conforming to the mainstream status quo, the norm, your obligation to uphold tradition, like everybody else, is like totally independent thinking. It's like everyone is marching off of a cliff and 5 guys say dude I'm breaking from the herd and not walking off the cliff, and you holler to the 5 guys oh look at the groupthink conformists all conforming and making a cult-like pact to not walk off the cliff like everyone else. All 5 of you can't think for yourselves. Look at the way you are all in agreement. total conformity man. I on the other hand am walking right off this cliff like everyone else, ergo I'm MGTOW because following the herd off the cliff is my way.
MGTOWs can't be married. We'll just change the name and move along?
Thanks for your comment and I hope RBK reads it. You are the example I was looking for.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Call yourself something else.
I wish you all would stop branding us all as traditionalists. Not everyone who holds that family is good does so because it's traditional. Some of us think that it is rational, proven in evidence, and grounded in humanist ethics. The importance of the human family is a known scientific fact based in biology. And, more specifically, zoology, mammalogy, primatology, and anthropology. Yes, some may chalk it up to religion, culture, or tradition, but science can explain that, too. But they will also often justify that belief on personal experience or observation of that of others that may differ sharply from the stories MGTOWists tell. Some of us think that even when MGTOWists make good arguments, it's not convincing because these suffer from enormous gaping holes, very important facts are missing and bad reasoning. How is a gender-separatist society supposed to function? What about companionship? What about love? What about meaning? What about children? How is a marriage in which she is only doing what he wants her to do, such as Janet's, or another in which she stays home and take care of his house and children and other affairs while he is the sole income earner? How is that rightly slavery? It's what he wants her to do. The things she does are largely to benefit him. Also, women in MGTOWism are described as pampered middle and upper class women, who have never been the majority. MGTOWism is not well thought out and not convincing. Finally, MGTOWists come off in a way that's off-putting. You broadcast your some sort of misanthropy, bitterness, or sociopathy. For example, your screen name is Razorblade Candy. What kind of mind would give himself such a nickname? The more MGTOWists talk, the more they sound like the villain's speech in a movie or cartoon. It seems at times not much different from what Tom Waits called bachelorhoodism and better off without a wife, just the same old rationalizations that bachelors have always needed to find someone to listen to. Misery loves company, so they are attracted to a voice for men in droves and viciously attack the family men, driving us away and hurting the movement. Not everyone who holds that family is good does so because it's traditional.
And I don't recall me or any prominent MGTOW saying that family was inherently not good. It's odd that you seem to be hearing that in my video. I may be wrong, but I am going to go out on a limb and say you interpret anti-familism because you hold the concept of nuclear family as some sort of pseudo-religious concept, a foundation on which all of your worldview is derived from. Though I could be wrong about that being the case with you, I have seen it crystal clear in some tradcons. I have seen it as, gays are bad because fags can't make nuclear family, marriage is a must because it is necessary for nuclear family, men must do ABC because it is his job within the nuclear family division of labor, women must do XYZ because it is her job within nuclear family division of labor, and this pattern continues from the axis of nuclear family. I think that's what the word axiom means. Yes, I just looked it up. Axiom is the point of reason, the one divine truth in which all other truth can be derived. Conservatives use the nuclear family and the libertarians use the NAP, religions use God, the liberal uses equality, and so on. I seriously dislike this train of thought, a worldview where every question in life can be answered by comparing it to the axiom, the one great divine truth to which all truths can be derived. I hate it because it's rigid, it's dogmatic, it's inflexible. It leads to the proponent of the axiom to hold a smug superficial moral stance, such as, I proclaim doing X is bad because it is not beneficial to nuclear family. If you disagree you are anti-family, if you are anti-family you are bad. Or if I proclaim X is bad because it violates the NAP, if you disagree you support violence, you want me shot in the head, thus you're bad. I proclaim X is bad because it goes against God's word, if you disagree you are against God. Those who are against God are evil. Now it could be argued that MGTOW has the axiom of gynocentrism, the one true evil, while other axioms begin with one true good, or purpose. MGTOW is based on the one true evil, so will MGTOW become, over time, another rigid dogmatic movement? Maybe, but I would say it has two things that will hopefully prevent that direction: the fact that we postulate a great evil, evil only in the context of MGTOW, not evil in the context of all life and purpose. Determining if a thing is good or bad by asking if it is gynocentric, is first of all, comparing it to a fluid scale, and secondly, only valid in the context of gender dynamics, and is not applicable to things outside of that paradigm. I hope this will be MGTOW's one saving grace.
The importance of the human family is a known scientific fact based in biology.
Oh fiddle faddle, this is really a non-argument. The importance of family. What about the importance of freedom? What about the importance of happiness? What about the importance of individuality? What about collective good, family, versus individual liberty? I hear individualist philosophers like Rocking Mystery and the Critical G preaching the importance of social obligations/social duty such as marriage, social obligations of a collectivist nature. The individual must part with what is good for the individual for the collective good of the family, for the collective good of his race, for the collective good of his country, for the collective good of his species. So much collectivism preached by individualists, all because family is important. Yes, family is important, and so are a million other things. Furthermore, you talk about family is important, because so says biology and zoology, mammalogy, primatology, and anthropology. Yet this is not nuclear family. In most cases, this so-called family takes on many different structures with the only ingredient being the reproductive element. Some animals have offspring that they never actually raise. They lay their eggs and run. So to say biology proves the importance of family, is a truth, but a cherry-picked one. Family can take many forms, and who knows, maybe you're not a heteronormative nuclear family values advocate, but this insistence that family be the backbone, the platform, the basis, the axiom of all things is just fucking stupid. And to top it all off, where in my video did I denounce family, I recall denouncing this traditionalist conservative nuclear family values propaganda. The thing I am denouncing here, the usage of family as some excuse to judge all goodness and badness and an excuse to pressure others into a pattern of behavior. You know MGTOW are evil because, family, and just one more little thing, why can't you have a family without a government contract called marriage?
Some of us think that even when MGTOWists make good arguments, it's not convincing because these suffer from enormous gaping holes. Very important facts are missing and bad reasoning.
You mean like proclaiming family is important while conveniently denying things such as freedom, autonomy, justice, equality, are also important things? You mean like using the family as an excuse to promote marriage in spite of the fact marriage is not needed for a family? Even a heteronormative nuclear family can happen without marriage, and being against traditionalism does not equal being against family. That sort of gaping logic? P.S. I kinda feel dirty after using social justice warrior lingo like heteronormative. Curse the right-wing fundamentalists who make me use leftist speak. You come at me with gaping logic accusing MGTOW of gaping logic.
How is a gender-separatist society supposed to function? What about companionship? What about love? What about meaning? What about children?
The topic of this video is about those four people in its title, and the traditionalist assault on MGTOW and whether or not MGTOW can be married. To answer these questions you asked goes beyond the point of this video, become incredibly complex, and have been answered and discussed in previous videos. I will say it is interesting that you ask what about meaning. So MGTOW, or specifically in this case sex separatism, is a thing that lacks human meaning? Really? So you have found meaning in heteronormative traditional nuclear family bound by legal government contract of marriage? Remove one part of that equation and there is no meaning? I say MGTOW is anti-marriage. You fire back with what about meaning? I think it's interesting that marriage is your meaning. Granted I could be straw manning, on the basis I am not 100% sure where you stand or where you are coming from.
How is a marriage in which she is only doing what he wants her to do, such as Janet's, or another in which she stays home and take care of his house and children and other affairs while he is the sole income earner? How is that rightly slavery?
I am removing Janet from the equation, and not making this argument a personal one. Now, how is she doing what he wants her to do? Slavery? She does what he wants her to do, with her approval of this setup to which she can revoke the agreement, do what she wants to do, and he is powerless. What a married man has in this day and age, is the illusion of authority, the illusion of love. Everything is an illusion. You picture a woman staying at home with her feet propped up relaxing in front of the TV, her husband working long hours at a miserable job to prop her up. I think she is doing what she wants to do. The notion that he wants her to do it, well, that's a complicated one. I mean, if the Negro enjoys picking cotton to make the white family who owns him, a wealthy family, and they show their support with a kind smile and reassurance he is the most respected worker they have, he is flattered and finds purpose in his work. He believes it is the natural order of things. Question, is he a slave? I would say yes, because his mind has been corrupted to hold these beliefs. And secondly, if his mind should ever change, he is not free to leave. If a man is blind and trapped in a large prison, so long as he does not walk too far and bump into a wall, he may assume himself to be walking in a wide open space. Is he a prisoner? I would say yes, even if he never walked to the wall. The fact is there, and he may not go beyond that point, makes him a prisoner, whether or not he has the awareness or not. That, sir, is a significant part of what we mean by red pill and leaving the matrix. The prisoner who thinks he is free, only because he is oblivious to his prison walls. The slave who thinks he lives his life on his own terms. They are in the matrix. If the oblivious slave and prisoner are happy, is it not an act of cruelty to give him the red pill and remove his blissful ignorance? If his blissful ignorance leads to the perpetuation of a system that hurts those who are not oblivious, he must be awakened for the good of others. Furthermore, with men having a suicide rate of 4 or 5 times greater than women, I would say his blissful ignorance is not so blissful. I don't think the oblivious slave and the oblivious prisoner are really oblivious. I think they are simply in denial. The fact you think a stay-at-home wife is doing what he wants her to do, as if to say she is under his power, shows what a blue pill man you are. And yes, I understand that MGTOW can be very off-putting. You see, politicians are so popular because they tell cowards the comforting feel-good lies they want to hear, rather than the harsh truth that frightens them. But if I told you that when you support a woman, effectively buying her love, paying for her service as a wife, that her love is real, and if anything bad ever happened to you, she'd totally be willing to put in 40 or 60 hours a week for the rest of her life to support you, because she has been in love with the awesomeness of your niceness, because that love of hers sure is real. If I told you that, I'm sure that'd make you feel good. Perhaps it is the very fact what I tell you is so off-putting, is your first clue that I may be speaking stone-cold reality to you. Oh yeah, and men sure do get angry when a woman doesn't value his niceness. Let your soft brain ponder that fact. If you so much as think your niceness was supposed to have been a thing valued by a woman, you do not know the female brain, and you have spent your life misunderstanding the shit you thought was a female loving you. Your niceness, you mean your essence, your deservingness, yourself as a thing unto itself, niceness, the quality of self that is not disposable utility.
The more MGTOWists talk, the more they sound like the villain speech in a movie or cartoon.
Yeah, I know. In a gynocentric world where goodness is the measure of a man's disposability and utility to women, we MGTOW are the anti-heroes. Me and Ravishing Recruit already made videos about it. Actually, he made a video about it and I made a video about his video about it.
It seems at times not much different from what Tom Waits called bachelorhoodism and better off without a wife. Just the same old rationalizations that bachelors have always needed to find someone to listen to. Misery loves company, so they are attracted to have voice for men in droves and viciously attack the family men, driving us away and hurting the movement.
You call us miserable because, fuck if I know, fuck your misery loves company bullshit, and go look in the mirror. You come here proselytizing people into your fucking religion of nuclear family marriage horse shit, and the science and logic of a creationist. You talk about the scientific importance of family. What I don't see is the scientific importance in biology, mammalogy and primatology and zoology of marriage. Mammalogy, male lions have multiple simultaneous female partners. This breaks Western traditionalism. There are birds who lay eggs in other birds' nests for the other bird to unknowingly raise. This is not traditional family values. There is no shortage of insects that lay eggs and then leave and never raise their offspring. Some insects insert their eggs into a host. Tigers sometimes eat their young. If abortion ain't family values, I seriously doubt cannibalizing your young is a part of family values. Many mammals and reptiles and amphibians mate and instantly split up after copulation, with the female impregnated. Isn't there a breed of penguins where the male plays the role of sitting on the egg like a mommy? But stay-at-home fathers ain't traditional. You claim all these various sciences prove the importance of family, and conflate that with marriage, all because you're cherry-picking. You're like the creationist that says science proves the Bible is correct, and it takes more faith not to believe. When you ask for the rationale behind this gibberish, he says, in the beginning there was darkness, then God created light. That adds up to the Big Bang. There was no matter or energy, thus no light, then bang, lots of light. See, science proves the Bible to be a book of scientific truth. It's that type of dumbass shit-headed fuckery you are pulling here, and I see what you're doing with this nonsense of viciously attack the family men, driving us away and hurting the movement. Oh, knock it off. I even went out of my way to remind my audience to be careful not to attack the good married men in the men's movement. You come here in MGTOW space proselytizing with your zealous religious devotion to the sanctity of family with all of your pseudoscience, and calling us off-putting, calling us, or at least me, sociopath, bitter, misanthrope, miserable, and then have the bloody gumption to play victim that you are being made to feel unwelcome, and oh how that hurts the movement. But your proselytizing of family values, that is marriage advocacy, to a bunch of men isn't at all detrimental to the well-being of men. Remind me how I'm the sociopath.
You broadcast your some sort of misanthropy, bitterness, or sociopathy. For example, your screen name is Razorblade Candy. What kind of mind would give himself such a nickname?
You got me. MGTOW is wrong and evil because I, Razorblade Candy, am evil and bitter and sociopathic and a misanthrope, and the proof is, my YouTube username. Great fucking logic, mate. Can't argue that. You win. I'm going home now and getting married. because you have shattered all of my nonsense with your remarkable and impeccable logic of deductive reasoning. So many people have stepped up to me, and I have fucking obliterated them, leaving in my wake a trail of butthurt broken souls crying their eyes out. Finally, after my long reign as heavyweight champion, poor of fools, I have been defeated. For you, sir, are the victor. MGTOW is bad because RBK is bad because his username implies it. Impeccable logic. I have been checked, and I have been mated.